John Kerry, now that the Democrats hold the Senate and have done better than expected in seeing off the more Trump-backed candidates in the House, does Joe Biden have to really push the advantage now to up the ante on the climate issue?
Well, whether or not the elections had turned out the way they did, President Biden was prepared to push as hard as possible on the climate because it's a crisis, and we are behind, and we need to achieve major reductions in our emissions in order to keep the Earth's temperature increase at 1.5 degrees Celsius. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. The president's committed to doing it no matter what. But yes, it helps with the outcome of the election.
There is talk of a revision from 1.5 to 2. Is that completely out of the question? Would you walk away?
Yes.
Right.
We cannot go backwards at Sharm el-Sheikh. And I don't believe Egypt wants to be the place to be known for having gone backwards from Glasgow.
So the US is one of 9 countries responsible for 90% of the global coal production, and the US plans to increase gas and coal by 5% by 2030. That now is incompatible with the 1.5 target.
By 2030, the president has set a goal that will be, halfway to fossil free, and by 2035 we will be fossil free, no carbon in our power sector. But I think that what people need to focus on is the fact that all around the planet we are raising the amount of renewables that are being deployed, and new technologies like green hydrogen and other things are coming online. So we need to just stay focused on accelerating the reduction of emissions. And if you do the right things, you can, in fact, still meet those targets.
But the new statistics from the Climate Change Performance Index today talk specifically about that increase in gas and coal by 5% by 2030, and they say it is incompatible with the 1.5 target.
If it is unabated, unmitigated, yes. But if, on the other hand, requirements are put in that require people to meet a standard of the reduction of emissions, then it's up, the marketplace is going to decide where that goes. I think, we're behind. I mean, I'm not trying to not acknowledge that the world is behind. Every country needs to step up and do more. And right now we're on track to hit 2.5 or 2.7 degrees. We need to move a lot faster. We need to get bigger reductions in emissions. And that's what this meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh is about.
One of the big conversations today was the issue of loss and damage. When it's beyond mitigation, it's beyond any other form. It's beyond adaptation and mitigation. A country who suffers as a result of other countries, particularly the developed world, should have a loss and damage fund. But America has not agreed to join a loss and damage fund. Will America definitely join a loss and damage fund?
America has been very clear about its support to deal with the loss and damage issue. And we have urged countries for the last months to make this part of the agenda here in Sharm el-Sheikh. We voted and agreed that it should be part of the agenda. It is, which requires that we have an outcome. And we are working towards that outcome. So, we're the largest humanitarian donor in the world, and we are going to work to guarantee that not just the developed world, by the way, there are developing countries that have major emissions today, which are contributing to those damages.
Isn't the important thing that America is in a congregation with other countries within a loss and damage fund?
Well, I think the United States needs to work. Yes, the answer is there's going to be some. I don't know if it's going to be a fund, or if it's going to be a mechanism, or if there's going to be some way that revenue is raised and apportioned. I don't know yet what that's going to be.
If China isn't committed to getting to 1.5 by 2030, and they only said they were happy for the target to be in the communique, then what happens?
We don't get there either.
Oh, let's talk a little broader now, because Joe Biden is determined that there will be no conflict over Taiwan, and to be more cordial and have this conversation. You're hoping to appeal to Xi Jinping about Taiwan, but on the other hand, you're kind of tightening the screw on the Chinese economy.
Well, I think, I don't think so. I think there have been, unfortunately, going back some period of time, there have been economic barriers that have been put in place, which President Biden is hopeful we can now talk about seriously and deal with this. And my hope is that the green light that has been given by virtue of the meeting of our two presidents, I hope shines bright enough and long enough that it will allow us to be able to deal with the climate issue and to deal not just with the issues here at the COP, but broadly to deal with how we are going to cooperate together for all of humanity.
You know, what is the best way for Joe Biden to ensure that his desire to stop China invading Taiwan is delivered? Because, you know, if you have a standoff over Taiwan which erupts, it does bleed into the climate issue. Of course it must.
Well, let's be very clear about this. The United States has had a consistent China policy, Taiwan policy, for years now, through Republican and Democrat presidents alike. And that policy recognizes, and was reiterated today by President Biden, there is one China. And the agreement has been that the United States would provide the capacity to defend itself, that China does not invade, but that there is one China, and that over time, our desire has always been that there would be a working out of this difference between Taiwan and China. But we've said to Taiwan, we will not support independence. That has been a long time policy of the United States. And I think, you know, President Biden reiterated today the one China policy. And so we're hopeful that that issue also can be worked out in the way that it ought to be, which is peacefully, without threats, without certainly the prospect of war.
Now, finally, in a slightly different vein, America has a tradition of veteran politicians. But do you think that Joe Biden should run in 2024, or should it be a candidate from a different generation?
Well, let me just be very direct about that. I am hatched, as they say. I'm not allowed to engage in politics. But would I, you know, what would I say as an observer on the sideline? I think Joe Biden's done an extraordinary job as president. I think he has a legislative record that is better than any president since Lyndon Johnson. He's achieved an enormous amount in the COVID fight, in the infrastructure fight, in the children's health, as well as in the climate sphere, and with his support for Ukraine and the strengthening of NATO. And you can run a long list. I personally would obviously, I think you can tell where my vote would be. I think Joe Biden in all of this has probably given new definition to the word sustainable.
Thank you very much indeed, John Kerry.
Thank you.